Welcome to Fishing Fridays radio podcast, where we go behind the scenes and uncover the tactics and strategies top fishermen are using to catch more fish, dominate tournaments, and how you can get those same results. Here is your host, Mike Grady.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Dig In Fishing Fridays. I'm your host, Mike Grady. I'm excited today because today we have Drew Benton here. Drew is a Bassmaster Elite Series angler from Panama City, Florida. Drew has been Rookie of the Year in both the FLW Tour and the Bassmaster Elite Series. Drew has won 2 major wins, and the first in FLW Tour Lake Okeechobee, and the second Bassmaster Toyota Texas Fest. Drew will also be fishing in his second Bassmaster Classic in Knoxville, Tennessee in a couple of weeks. Welcome, Drew.
Hey, thanks for having me.
So, Drew, what are you up to today?
Well, as you know, I'm up here in the panhandle where Hurricane Michael just unleashed its wrath a few months back, and today I'm working around the house trying to get everything back in order in between events. So I'm kind of wearing 2 hats at one time right now.
I'm in Daytona Beach, Florida, and I can absolutely tell anybody listening that if you haven't seen pictures of what that hurricane did to the panhandle, it's like a bomb went off up there.
It is. It really looked like a war zone, and still does in a lot of parts of my county. It's just I've lived through a bunch of hurricanes. Being from Florida, we've never left, and it still amazes me the amount of force that came along with Hurricane Michael.
Well, I'll tell you, after being in Daytona for 25 years, I can absolutely tell you one thing is true. I'd rather the wind every once in a while blows sideways and throws a hurricane at us as opposed to 100 inches of snow and 25 below zero.
Yeah, that's right. I don't do that much cold. I live down here in the South for a reason, and I don't mind going up north and fishing those Great Lake smallmouth fisheries in the summertime when we're escaping that 100 degrees and 100% humidity down here. But this time of year and on in early spring, the South is the place for me.
Yeah, buddy. All right, let's talk fishing, man. How did you tell our listeners, how did you get started fishing?
Well, I mean, my love for fishing started fishing for brim and catfish on the Okeechobee River with my granddad, as most kids, And I really didn't start bass fishing until I got to high school age and started fishing around little ponds and lakes around the house with my friends. And that's really how I got my start, just wade fishing, floating down equine little rivers around the house and float tubes and just fishing for bass that way.
So you did that as a kid. So what made you get into competitive fishing?
So, I played baseball all through high school and college, and I was a super competitive person. And we had little tournaments here around the house, Tuesday night tournaments, and Saturday events, and whenever I was 16, I got me a little bass tracker, and we started getting in those little local tournaments and doing really well. And then I just started climbing the ladder. I branched out to regional events on Lake Seminole and Eufaula, and joined a bass club, and it really just took off from there. That competitive aspect of tournament fishing was the best of both worlds for me. It gave me that competitiveness that I need, and the love for the outdoors. So it's just a combination of both, and it was just the perfect setup for me.
Well, let me ask you, now that you're fishing at the highest level, what's the biggest challenge or problem you found in competing with some of the best there are?
Obviously the biggest challenge that I can think of would be that no matter what, you can do everything right in this job. You can, make the right cast, make the right decisions, but you're still going after a wild animal. And that X factor, along with weather and everything else that can be thrown at you, that's what makes it the most challenging. You can do everything right on your part, and you still not get paid at the end of the day. And that's just part of the game that we play.
Luck is part of it, huh?
I wouldn't say luck as much as just those uncontrollable factors.
Gotcha.
You know, like you practice for an event, you've got some fish found, and it rains 3 inches the night before and just blows out your area, or, you know, just the X factors that, you know, Mother Nature and the aspect of, you know, you're chasing after wild fish with tails to swim off. I mean, that's just part of it.
Gotcha. Well, given that, what have you learned, you know, because obviously, you know, you did well in FLW and now you're in the Elite Series. What have you learned that's really helped you succeed?
Mostly just keep an open mind. You know, you develop a game plan, of course, in practice, and you kind of get an idea of what you want to do. But, you know, you've always got to keep an open mind while you're out there fishing in the tournament. A lot of things develop during the event. Matter of fact, a good point would be Texas Fest. I didn't figure out the win deal until the afternoon of the first day of the event. And I had no idea that I was going to win that tournament. Had no idea I was on the winning pattern. It was just keeping an open mind and, you know, fishing what was in front of me and, you know, taking things one step at a time.
You mentioned that you put together a plan for, you know, the tournament of the lake. Can you talk to us a little bit about what your process is and going through and putting together a plan for a particular body of water?
Yeah, typically, I take into account, you know, what stage the fish are in, whether it's pre-spawn, spawn, post-spawn. I try to find that out before I even put the boat in the water. That gives me an idea of the type of areas I need to look at. It tells me, are the fish going to be shallow? Are they going to be in those staging type areas, those steeper banks? Are they going to be on those places that they come and rest after they spawn? Or are they going to be out deep in their summertime hunt? I mean, it just gives you a better idea of locations to look. And that's kind of the most planning I do. And then I hop into just trying to locate, just try to get a bite or two. Let the fish tell you what's going on.
When it comes to putting together your plan or implementing it, do you use any tools or any information sources?
Oh, yeah. My Lowrance units are, you know, they just take all the guesswork out of all that. I can study the mapping on my Lowrance units and see where the channel swing banks are, where, you know, ditches and travel points are. I can, you know, use the structure scans to find, you know, rock holding structure out, you know, off points and road beds and things like that. And actually, in the summertime, you can actually see the schools of fish. So that is a big tool, as well as, you know, satellite imagery, Google Maps, Bing Maps, using those to see, you know, a satellite picture of the lake, and you can see where grass grows or where sandbars are, where little depressions are on flats, things like that. That's all very, very helpful and useful tools that you can use before you even get to the lake, before you even get to the body of water, and you can do a lot of homework, you know, using those tools and take a lot of the guesswork out before you actually get on the water.
You know, and I ask this to a lot of the elite guys. Do you actually write down your plan in a book, or do you just kind of keep it in your head?
No, I don't. I don't write it down. I keep it in my head. You know, I'm a very forgetful person. If you know me, matter of fact, this interview, if you wouldn't have texted me just a while ago and reminded me, I would have forgot about it. But when it comes to fishing and comes to getting bites and things like that, for whatever reason, I can remember that type of stuff, and it stays in my head. So I don't really have a need to write anything down.
Because it's what you love to do.
That's right.
Yeah. So let me ask you, when, you know, you put together your plan, you kind of go out there, you get some experience in your practice. What kind of results have you gotten from, you know, some of your different, you know, things that you do over and over and over again?
I feel like as long as I go in and just try to get an idea, and don't really get too hung up on one thing, one pattern, I just kind of get an idea of starting point for the event, not necessarily, you know, I'm going to do this. If this doesn't work, I'm going to do this. If that doesn't work, I'm going to go to plan C. I feel like if I just figure out, you know, an idea, somewhere to start, and kind of let the tournament develop, me, develop itself to me, and I just kind of keep an open mind and kind of roll with the punches. I find myself far more successful than if I get hung up on one thing and just, try to make the fish do that. I think you're way more successful if you let the fish tell you what to do, and you just kind of, put yourself in those high percentage areas.
When you're kind of working along, do you kind of keep the time in your head about how long it's been in between fish or that kind of thing, or do you have a set time? So in other words, you said your process is kind of fluid, but you get to be like, wow, nothing's happened in 20 minutes, I got to do something else, or you just kind of just go with what's happening?
Well, yeah, in a way. I mean, every body of water is different. Some lakes, you might be fishing for 5 to 7 bites a day. Whereas other lakes, that have a big fish population, you're getting bit, steady. And you got to kind of take that into account and factor that in. So yeah, there's got to be a time, kind of a mental time clock in your head, going off. If you're spending too much time doing one thing and not getting bit, you obviously got to move on, but you got to take into account the body of water you're on. I mean, up north, if you're not getting bit, you better be doing something else, because the fishing is very strong up there. They got, big populations of fish, and they don't get fished for often. But when you're down here in the south, say for instance on a body of water like the classic venue, it'll be March, it'll be pre-spawn, you might not necessarily get the number of bites that you would at a place like St. Lawrence River or St. Clair up north. But you got to stick to the areas that you have confidence in and the techniques that you have confidence in, and allow those bites to come. But there definitely has to be a mental time clock factored into that if you're not getting bit at all.
So what you're saying is fishing at St. Lawrence is different than Toho or Okeechobee, huh?
Yeah, absolutely. It is. Fishing St. Lawrence, it's just so full of fish. I mean, you're going to get bit pretty much everywhere you go on that place. And the key for a place like that, though, is the quality. And, a 3 3/4 pounder and a 4 pounder are very, very different. You've got to find those 4-pound bites. That's the whole key there. And when you say time wise, if you're getting a lot of 3 3/4, 3.5 pound bites, but you're getting bit, you've got to go do something different. I mean, you're discounting yourself hugely by not going after that bigger quality bite elsewhere. So you gotta move around and figure out how to get those 4-pound bites. Just because you're getting bit does not mean you're on the right track in those places. And again, it's all according on to the body of water you're fishing.
Gotcha. So what would you say is the biggest thing you've learned, or the most successful thing you've learned that's made you better since you started fishing, FLW and, of course, the Elite Series?
The biggest thing is being able to be versatile. You have guys that you would call your deep water guys. You got your guys that, are just shallow water guys. We could be, dropping on them up north, and they're going to go try to find some field shallow. And from what I've found, you've got to be versatile. You can't be that guy that you're just known for being shallow water or known for being a great deep water angler. You've got to get out of your comfort zone, and you've got to figure out ways to catch them in those times that they're going to be called off, out offshore, vice versa. It's just the nature of the game. The most successful guys in the sport are versatile, and that's the biggest thing I've learned.
Gotcha. So when you're going and making up your plan, you're also taking a look at depth of water in different areas, huh?
Yeah. I mean, for instance, if I'm thinking that everything's spawn to pre-spawn, I'm going to be looking in those areas that are 5 foot or less. Possibly little depression stitches, leading into spawning pockets and things like that. And then if, I know that everything's post-spawn, more like a June to summer pattern, I probably won't be looking up shallow, unless it's a grass lake where fish live shallow year-round. Most of those fish will move out to a river channel ledge or a deep drop or something like that. So, that kind of gives me an idea of a starting point to look at least.
Gotcha. Well, lastly, as we come to the end of our interview, I want to ask you, and I ask everybody these two questions. Number one, what is your most successful fishing secret?
Most successful fishing secret. I'll answer that because I've had a lot of questions since St. John's River. I've had, you wouldn't believe the number of emails, messages on social media and all. I had a pump-up sprayer on the front deck of my boat with a little blue solution mixed up in it, and everybody wants to know what is in that pump-up sprayer. Well, when I'm sight fishing in the spring, you obviously have a lot of pollen on the water that time of year, as well as, any kind of wind or ripple that blows. It's hard to see. You might be able to see the bed, but you can't get a good look at the fish and see what, size fish is. So what I can do with a little bit of a Blue Dawn dishwashing liquid, which is, environmentally safe, mix it up with a little lake water, put it in a pump-up sprayer, and I can spray it like there's a little ripple on the water. I can spray it in a 10 by 10 area, and it'll flick that water off where I can see really good and see what that fish is, see how he's acting, or if there's pollen in the water, I can spray it and I can disperse that pollen and see. So that's probably one of the biggest secrets I've got, and it's kind of, it's known. It's not a big secret or anything, but a lot of people have asked me, what that is, and that's what it is.
I'm here to tell you that's the first time I've heard of it, and that is awesome because you're kind of using it as a surfactant, so you can actually, cut down on the glare.
Right. Yep.
That's amazing. All right. So, question number 2: what's your most successful or your favorite lure or bait?
Oh, that's a tough one. I have to say though, going all over the country, a bait that catches them everywhere. Is probably a little crankbait, and Bagley makes a fantastic one. It's called a Sunny Bee. It's a little 6 to 8 foot diver. Of course, you can put heavier line on it, fish are shallower. But if you put 15-pound test, it's going to dive about 6 feet. It's a tight wobble, small crankbait. It gets a ton of bites and it catches big ones. It's a balsa lure that comes through any cover you can imagine. And it's got a super tight, super realistic action with great colors to match any kind of forage you want, and it'll catch them from Florida to New York. So that's a bait that I throw a ton and have a lot of confidence.
Nice. Drew, you've given our listeners a ton of great information. I really appreciate that. But this is professional fishing, so do you have anything that you want to promote?
Well, we couldn't do this without any of our sponsors. And that, when you ask me one of the hardest things that I've learned about, this sport, it's hard to answer that without mentioning the sponsor aspect of it. It's 2 jobs. It's fishing and promoting. And, every year we got more fishermen, and it's harder and harder to get sponsor dollars, so they get split up. But, I couldn't do it without Bagley, Phoenix Boats, Millennium Marine, Lawrence Power Pole, Doomsday, Nichols Lures, Phoenix Rod, Seagar, Owner Hooks. All those companies are, kind of a team that I've put together, and they work really well together. And, I'm glad to be a part of, their family, and, I couldn't do it without them. So they're products that will put more fish in everybody's boat, and just be sure to check them out.
Awesome, man. Drew, thanks for the great information, and thanks for being on our show.
All right. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
All right. Good luck in the Elite Series this year.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Fishing Fridays Radio Podcast. If you'd like to be notified anytime we release a new episode, just hit subscribe and like this episode. Or you can subscribe over at fishingfridaysradio.com. In addition to that, we would love to send you a free gift. You can find that free gift at giveaway.digandanchors.com. Thanks again for listening.